Surprise! We're here. Eric Follman, Kyle Carbone here, coming at you with a surprise pre-opening day podcast. We have some bold takes. We have some trades, more trades.
Yeah, we do.
Would expect nothing less. And we have our playoff predictions. We didn't want to run the 4-hour pod last time, so thought we'd squeeze this thing for everything we can. Eric, what is new since the last time we talked? Is there anything that we missed last time? Anything you'd like to say that possibly we missed?
Oh man, I can't think of any. This is like what, our third one in 10 days. We're cranking these out. This is fun. This is prime baseball talk right here. I'm getting excited. We didn't get any for 8 weeks, and now Kyle throws out 3 in 10 days. It's like, hell yeah, let's get it done. But no, we'll talk more about maybe some stuff we dipped out on last time. So I'm ready to get rolling.
All right, I was gonna give a little teaser at the top, but I'll say this, Chris. There's something for you a little bit later in the podcast here. So
Tease him too much.
before we get into our actual bold predictions, we actually have one for each team. I have several for some teams. I'll tell you that right now. We have trades. We'll get into our trades. Let's pull up our trade screen here, and our first trade is the one after the one between Jordan and I, which is Corbin Carroll and Miles Mikolas. Jordan just getting the tanking done early before the season even starts, already into tank mode. Trading away Corbin Carroll, Miles Mikolas, getting back Jared Kelenic, Aaron Ashby, and Trevor Story. What did you make of this trade, Eric?
I thought it was interesting. Obviously, Chad's again in win now mode, so he wanted to go get Corbin Carroll. Obviously, hoping on that upside, as we talked about in the last show. Probably not a keeper at that price unless he does some Julio Rodriguez kind of things. But I mean, if he steals 50 bases, I mean, is he worth $33 if he hits 20 home runs with it? Maybe he is. I mean, that's the fun about baseball. We'll see. But overall, I thought it made sense for Chad. Mikolas is whatever. I don't really see him as a starter too much in fantasy because the strikeout numbers aren't there. So he's really got to have a good ERA and WHIP. But obviously, Chad gave away Kelenic, Ashby, and Story. And it makes sense. Story will be back at some point this year, so who knows? In a weird world where Carroll struggles and Story ends up being the better fantasy player. I mean, that is a feasible scenario that is out there. But I do think, looking at the scheme of things on March 29th, it does make sense for a Chad win now move and a let's get the name right, Jordan win later move.
There you go. Not Dave. Are you sure?
Yes, I got it this time. I got it.
This is a trade I like for both sides. I think Chad's kind of going all in here on Corbin Carroll. We're gonna get to another one of Chad's moves here in a little bit. I like Corbin Carroll a lot as the player. I think he's got a lot of upside. I don't know if he's going to be Julio Rodriguez. Odds are against him being as good as Julio was last year. I think you're kind of right. The odds of him being a keeper at $33 would mean he would have to, we talked about this last time, he would have to steal 30 bags and probably hit 20 home runs. He would have to be like above what Cedric Mullins did 2 years ago to be worth that salary. And I think the odds are stacked against him to do so. But I mean, it's fully possible. He's an 100th percentile sprint speed kind of guy. He could steal those 50 bags, and as long as he's not a liability and on base percentage, it might just make him worth it.
Sorry.
Good.
I will say this: he did play 32 games last year, and I know and we're gonna get it all into. I think we're gonna talk a little. Me and you both are, I think, on the same page with the steals this year. But in 32 games last year, which is about a fifth of a season, he had 2 steals. Yeah. 2.
Not great.
That on a 150 game pace, that is 10. That's 10 steals.
The interesting thing is, like, there's some guys that are out there that are like sprint speed StatCast guys, and obviously I'm a big kind of StatCast person when it comes to talking about my man O'Neal Cruz. But there's some guys out there that have the speed, but A, don't have the acceleration, and B, don't know how to read pitchers. So just because you're fast doesn't mean you have a knack for stealing bases. I mean, we've seen Albert Pujols steal a dozen bases before. He had several stolen bases last year just because he's smart and he's decently athletic, even though he's not fast anymore, that he can just kind of sneak in there. But I like the haul that Jordan got back here, mainly revolving around Trevor Story. Here's what I like about Trevor Story. Trevor Story is, I want to get his salary right here. Trevor Story is a
$6, right?
$6 player. I know for certain that Trevor Story will be one of the best values in the league next year, that he is a for sure keeper at $6. As long as he doesn't like tear his other ACL or like get significant injury, like there's no scenario where Trevor Story will not be kept at $6. That's kind of what I like about him. Ashby doesn't, he's going to have time. The Brewers are going to bring him along slowly. He's got really good stuff, but he's on a really cheap contract as well. So you can just kind of take a flyer on him. And Jared Kalenic, another guy, is on a really cheap contract, had a really good spring. We know what his prospect pedigree was. So I view this trade as Trevor Story getting a for sure keeper next year at a very good salary, and 2 lottery tickets that could be something that flash upside talent like that at the actual big league level. Well, Jared Kalenic not at the actual big league level, but in spring training anyway. And Ashby kind of flashed a lot of good stuff last year, where this is the kind of haul I would expect back from a deal which you're giving up a guy like Corbin Carroll. And we're going to get to another deal later that is actually the exact opposite of this. So I'm going to give both sides. I'll give an A to Jordan, and then I'm going to give probably a B+ to Chad, just because I don't know that Corbin Carroll is going to be anything in the majors yet. I mean, if you go off what he did last year, I mean, his numbers don't really blow you away. 330 on base percentage, 4 home runs, and that 1/5 of a season in those 100 at bats, like you said, 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases. I mean, that was just as a rookie last year, but obviously doesn't blow me away. He hasn't proven that he can actually be a hitter yet, be an offensive contributor. So he may have lost Trevor Story, the sure thing, and then the lottery tickets and Ashby and Kalenic, who could be something by the middle of the year, and he may not have gotten much back for it. So we'll kind of see. Jury's still out on this one.
I think the main thing for me is that Story's out as long as he is, and that's why I think this trade makes a lot more sense for Chad. Because if Story came back in May, based on what Story can do, again, I think there's a world where Story does still have a better year than Carroll despite missing a month.
Yeah.
But I think with him being out till July, I just have to give Chad, because I know the direction he's going and what he's doing. Mikolas really doesn't help him this year. I mean, sorry, not Kalenic doesn't really. We'll see if he would have helped them this year. Ashby had a 4.5 ERA last year. Story's out till July. So in terms of getting help this year, I'm going to give Chad an A, and I'll actually give Bryce an A as well, because I think, like you said,
Right,
Story.
you just call him Bryce. You cannot get his name.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Why did I think this was a Bryce trade? I'm getting ahead of myself. Jordan trade. I'll also give him an A as well, because it does make a lot of sense with what he's trying to do.
Not many AA trades we get around here. All right, next one we have the Beantown Boys, Bryce trading away Clayton Kershaw, some may call him Curtin Clayshaw, for Tyler Anderson and Pete Fairbanks. Eric, what are your initial thoughts on this one?
Is Anderson? Let me see.
The $1 A.
He's a $1 A. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better about it, because again, in this world, I see him being a possible, probably keeper next year, as long as he puts up those numbers again. We talked about him last time, though. He's no strikeouts, so you really got to make sure that ERA and that WHIP are solid. But other than that, Fairbanks is kind of whatever. Kershaw, if he pitches 120 innings this year, 130 innings, will be better than Tyler Anderson pitching 180 innings. He just will. I mean, he has more strikeout numbers. He's going to win more games, all those types of things. So again, I understand it for Bryce if he's kind of a little bit looking towards next year, which I think when we get to the other trade, he will be. So this does make sense in retrospect. But when I first saw this, I was kind of like, huh. If Kershaw puts 120 innings, 130 innings up, I would take that over 30 or 40 more Anderson innings. So I would give Bryce, knowing the trade that comes next, a B, and I would give Jay, because he needed pitching, an A-, honestly.
Yeah, I'll give Jay, I'll give him a B on this one. I think it's an upgrade for him, and I think that it's just a trade that kind of makes sense. I don't know that Pete Fairbanks is going to be anything, especially in a league like this where you have to, it's a weekly league, so you kind of have to know if Pete Fairbanks, he's only valuable if he's the closer, and you will very likely never know if he is the closer, if he's not the closer. He might appear to be the closer and during 1 week in June, and then the next week he'll get 2 saves over the next month and a half. Because that's just how the Rays run their bullpen. So I don't think that Pete Fairbanks is going to be anything, although I think he is talented as a reliever. Tyler Anderson for $1. If he comes anywhere near what he did last year, he'll be a value at $1. But here's where I guess I'll start my kind of rant on Bryce, where it's like, you just gave up Clayton Kershaw, who you kept at probably more salary than you needed to. And did you get back a for sure keeper? Like, do we know that Tyler Anderson's going to be a keeper next year? Do we know he's going to, after being traded, going to be the same or similar guy that he was last year? What was the rush on trading Clayton Kershaw for 2 question marks? I mean, I just don't really understand why you would make a trade like this. So I'm going to start out by giving him a D for this one, just because it's like, well, Clayton Kershaw is going to have value at every point this year unless he needs surgery, right? Even if he goes on the IL in a month and he misses a month, when he comes off IL, he's going to have
He's gonna
value.
be good.
They're
Yeah.
going to want him. But we don't know that Tyler Anderson's going to have any value a month from now. Tyler Anderson's going to have a 5 ERA like he has had several times in his
Yeah.
career. Like in 2021, we had a 4.8 ERA, or 2020 when he had a 4.37 ERA, or in 2019 when he had a 11.76 ERA, or 2021 when he had a 4.53. It's like he's only had a sub 4.3 ERA once in his career, and it was last year. So I don't know if he's going to carry that over or what. So it's just like, I don't know what was the rush to get a deal like this, because he didn't really get any sure things back for Clayton Kershaw, who we know is a sure thing. So a little bit rushed. So he's going to get a D for me on that one.
Makes sense when you put it into how they kind of could have got the players. Yeah. Cause what was stopping, like you said, what was stopping Bryce from just getting Anderson in the draft himself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So next deal, we have Crim's Crew making a trade for Brandon Woodruff. He kind of traded in 2 B players for an A. I think I'd say on this one, he traded away Nick Lodolo and Ryan Presley, got back Brandon Woodruff. So Crim's kind of going all in this year, because Presley was a C, but Nick Lodolo was a $4 B player for the $33 C contract of Brandon Woodruff. I kind of like the trade for both sides. Crimmy gets a lot of upside. I'm actually pretty high on Brandon Woodruff. Some of the rankings I've seen actually have him in the top 5 for starting pitching. I mean, in that elite group, just behind the likes of Sandy Alcantara and Garrett Cole, kind of like front running that next tier of starting pitching. And Nick Lodolo, we don't really know what he's going to be yet. I've heard a lot of good things about his stuff, but at the end of the day, he's still pitching in Cincinnati, so it's kind of hard to know what exactly he's going to be. And Ryan Presley, we kind of know what he's going to be. My red flags are up on him just because he's getting a little up there in age, and the velocity kind of took a dip last year, but there's no underlying reason in his stats, kind of similar to Shane Bieber, on why we should kind of be concerned about him. And he's the closer for one of the best teams in major leagues. So gave up some definitely usable pieces, but he got back a top pitcher. So I like this trade for both sides. I think Jay kind of got what he needed. He wanted that second closer. If you look at where his roster is now he's got 2 solid closers and some decent pitching. He can still add a quality pitcher, but maybe he can move some offense, hint for that pitcher. And so I kind of like where it put both teams. I'm going to give both teams a minus on this one.
All right. I did not like it that much for Jay. I think overall, again, I'm going to bring up that ADP thing again. If we're totally taking off contracts, I mean, both of them were average draft position over 100. So you're talking 8th round picks for like an early 3rd. I mean, you're talking a superstar player, and we're betting on what from Lodolo? 100 innings that he's
pitched.
pitched.
Also get an extra year out of Lodolo, though.
Yeah, granted, but Jay's trying to compete this year, right? So my thing is, I feel like the quality of Woodruff and what he brings, I think he could have gotten a bigger return somewhere else. I just do. I just think there's a lot of other guys out there, whether it's offense, whether it's this. Now, if he got what he wanted and got a second closer, which I don't really think he needed, because how many teams in the league have two actual closers on their team?
Yeah, but it depends on if you want to be mid-pack or if you want to lead the pack. And that being mid-pack and leading the pack could be different than 6 roto points.
Definitely. But my thing is, I think you could have still held on to Woodruff and gotten more either down the road or whatever. I just think that was too big of a star to get rid of in that sense. I just think it was. I think Lodolo could obviously be solid, but now Jay's rotation goes from Darvish, who's again 34, to who's next? Clayton Kershaw, who could be hurt. I know he just got him, but Lodolo, like I said, he had 100 innings last year. He was pretty solid. The whip was a little high. The ERA was a little bit above league average. So we'll see what we get from him. But I just think you're getting a little bit of an unproven guy in Lodolo. You're getting Presley, obviously, who's going to be a rock solid closer, hopefully for an Astros team. But you're giving up like a bona fide, no doubt about it, top ace, maybe a top 5, like you said, 10 pitcher in fantasy. And I really think he just could have got more of a haul for him.
Yeah, he probably could have. And actually looking at it, I think you kind of have a point. I think the underrated part of this is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about closer. We know that Jansen and Presley are going to be the guys, and barring tragedy, barring injury, or barring like them getting lit up like Josh Hader did last year, he's doesn't need to worry about closer the rest of the year. Odds are, I would say both these guys will likely keep the job. And I think that's an underrated part of it, where you can kind of now take some shots in his rotation, knowing that he will maybe lead the league in saves, and you can kind of build around the ads. But the other thing about it, as you were kind of said, if he already had Kenley Jansen, he was probably better off maybe taking a swing on some guys like Bruce Gratterall or an Alex Lang, or maybe like a second, third, fourth tier closer, or like a committee guy, because that's maybe all he needed to even be like still a top 5 saves team. And
Agreed.
you can't find Brandon Woodruff on waivers. So I think overall, I think it's just like he must really believe in Nick Lodolo, and kind of heard some good things. I know he listens to the Fantasy Football Today guys, and they're pretty high on him. So I think that was probably the reason why is just he really believes in Nick Lodolo. So we'll kind of see if it works out.
And I will say this, because this is going to sound a little hypocritical, from 3 months ago when I traded Brandon Woodruff for Patrick Sandoval straight up. But again, that was a little bit of a salary thing,
The
getting it under
salaries
the
mattered
auction.
more.
Right. And I actually am a huge believer in Sandoval this year, but that's without being said. But yes, did he get more than I did for Woodruff? Sure, different context, but it's not like I think it's an awful move for Jay. Like, I still think he's a good team. He's still going to compete. It's fine. I just, at the end of the day, think he could have got more. And I think it was a little early, so I'd say a D+ for Jay. And I'd honestly say
Breaking news.
A for Krim.
They just traded back.
What?
Wow. They did tradesies backsies. Okay. I guess we don't have to talk about the second Bryson and
Oh,
interesting. Okay. So I guess Chad couldn't find the salary relief. I don't know.
no, it's changed a little bit, hasn't it?
We could still talk about it, but
No, well, hold on. Oh no, it's the same deal.
yeah.
The names are
Yeah,
just flipped around, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like the same to me. Okay. Weirdness going on in the boys of summer. Trying to break this news here. Sorry for cutting you off. That was kind of a
Oh no, you're good.
news there. Was there any further thoughts on that I cut you off on?
No, not really.
All right. So next we have Bryce getting involved again with Jay, who's making more moves. Third time Jay's made a trade in a row, which is trading away Eovaldi and getting back Justin Turner and Cal Quantrill. This is turning a C contract into 2A contracts, but it's another one of those things where it's just like Justin Turner is on the retirement doorstep. So I don't know if as a future asset, I don't really know what he's getting. I don't know if Justin Turner's going to be around next year. I would probably bet on him not being around next year. Cal Quantrill is maybe something, but also probably not something. He's had good numbers just about every year where he's been in the league, but probably couldn't even strike me out. So I will kind of see what this turns into. Again, it's like it's a spitting image trade of the last one where it's like, well, I kind of believe in Nate Eovaldi. I know that Bryce does too. Like, what's the rush? What is the prize that you're actually getting back here by trading Eovaldi this early?
Yeah, it's tough for me because, I mean, I would argue it's tough because Cal Quantrill is not a strikeout guy like at all. So again, he's another guy that needs a low ERA, needs a low WHIP. So if you're looking at his season last year, the 15 wins probably again makes him startable, but it's one of those things where it's really tough. Eovaldi, I've never been a huge fan of at all. He's always been hovering around a 4 ERA. He's only been a really good strikeout pitcher a couple times in his career. Really, actually, like, looking back at the stats, like once in his career has he been, like twice in his career has he been more than a strikeout an inning guy. He's a high ERA, pretty high WHIP guy. So I've never really been a huge fan of his. So I actually like this more for Bryce in terms of the $1 Turner and the cheap Quantrill, because Quantrill's really pitched good the last couple of years. It's just a matter of he just doesn't get strikeouts. So I do like this one more for Bryce than I do for Jay.
I disagree on Eovaldi actually. With Nate Eovaldi, like he's a guy that his stuff looks better than his stats. He kind of hasn't figured it out. He's actually had a sub 3 ER or sub 4 ERA in the 3 straight years. He had a 3.72 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Last year 3.75, and then hang on, pause. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 3.72 ERA. 2 years ago, 3.75. Last year, 3.85. So under 4 ERA the last 3 years. He's had above a strikeout an inning 3 of the last 4 years. The only exception being last year, we only struck out 103 batters and 109 innings. So he is about a strikeout inning guy. Plus, he's moving from probably the second most, I think it was, hitter-friendly ballpark in Boston, going to Texas, where maybe they kind of figure some stuff out with them, going from a hitter-friendly ballpark to more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark. I like that about Eovaldi, and his stuff is kind of better than his numbers. So he's a guy that I actually like a lot, but what's his career high in innings pitched? Was it about 100?
Well, the stuff don't matter. The only thing that matters in fantasy is the numbers.
Yeah, well, he's young still, so I mean,
no, he's not. In what world is he young?
He's been in the league 4 years.
Dude, he's 33.
Is he 33?
Yes, dude, he's been in the league for like 10 years. Do you know,
Has
like,
he really?
yeah, he didn't he
Looking
used
at
to,
his stats, it didn't even look like it.
he came in up from Miami like 10 years ago, dude. That's what I'm saying. He's not that
Jesus
good.
Christ. I don't even remember him being on Miami.
Yeah,
Damn.
he's not good
Well, he's still figuring it out. His,
at
his,
34.
his prime is ahead of him. Jesus Christ. And I know Nate Evaldi was 33. I feel like I thought he
Oh
was
my God.
like but yeah, okay, so maybe I'm a little off on Nate Evaldi. But anyway, I still like Evaldi. He's the best player in the deal. And again, I think he's going to pitch better in Texas than he did in Boston. And if he's a little bit better than he was in Boston, we're looking at more of like a 3.5 ERA, about a strikeout an inning. And I think that should probably warrant more than getting Justin Turner.
Turner's numbers better last year than I know they're pitcher hitter, but I would take Turner's numbers last year over Eovaldi's. I mean, OBP is good. Turner hits 18, 20 home runs, 70, 80 RBIs, 60, 70 runs. I mean, yeah, I'd take that over a 4 ERA. If you go if you said a 3.77 ERA last year, right? If you go back to the last year's ERA stats for our teams, if you have a 3.77 ERA, I bet you're in the bottom 3 teams in fantasy.
Yeah, but you're not asking Eovaldi to be your top 3 pitcher. You're asking Eovaldi to be your 4 or 5. So you'd hope that the other guys would balance it out.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so, right?
Your aces like Cal Quantrill will kind of balance that out. Next deal that never happened, that happened but now has not happened, which was Bryce trading away Ronald Acuna Jr., Charlie Morton, and getting back Tyler Glasnow, Nolan Gorman, and Anthony Santander. Now, I'm going to take the lead on this one because you and I are going to disagree on this one, but this is another one where like Ronald Acuna is probably on many boards the number 1 player in fantasy this year. Maybe him and Judge kind of 1 and 1A, depending on what you want, speed versus the best power hitter in the league. But to trade away Ronald Acuna and just to kick in Charlie Morton just because, and to get back Tyler Glasnow, who can't get on the field, who's going to be a $13 C contract next year. Maybe he's a keeper. He's got to freaking prove that he can actually make it through half a season before he's worth $13. He's a great pitcher when he's on the mound, but he's still got to prove that he's healthy. Nolan Gorman, who I don't think has a consistent role with the Cardinals and hasn't proven to be good at all. 226 average, 300 on base percentage, and 14 home runs last year. Like, hasn't proven to actually be a decent contributing hitter on the Cardinals. Get it? Yeah, sure, he was a decent prospect coming up, but hasn't proven anything. And then Anthony Santander, which solid player, good asset for $1. He's going to be $6 next year. He's very likely going to be a keeper, but I could see a scenario where in Baltimore, his kind of stats kind of take a dip again. He had a 318 on base percentage, so he's bringing you down on base percentage. 78 runs, 89 RBIs, so neither 90 home runs nor 90 RBIs, 0 stolen bases. So he's hurting you in on base percentage, killing you in steals. Yeah, sure, he hit 33 home runs, so he's a contributing power hitter, but like I don't think he's like the blue chip guy. He's very likely a keeper, but again, I look at this deal and it's like you traded away Ronald Acuna and you got back like Santander is really the only guy that's like probably a keeper, but I'd rather have a $6 Trevor Story than a $6 Anthony Santander, plus the extra year that you get out of Trevor Story versus Santander. So to me, this is kind of a head scratcher. It's another one of those moves where it's like, wait, you're telling me that a Santander and Glasnow isn't available 3 months from now if you just were to hang on to Acuna? Just like, well, why are you trading Acuna now? Like, what do you have to gain? This isn't the offer that overwhelms me. So what do you think? Because you're higher on Santander.
No, the more you talk about it, the more it does make sense, because the way I'm looking at it is I see one probable keeper in Santander, but again, I agree with you there. I mean, is there a world where Santander sucks this year? Sure. I think the track record isn't quite there yet. So overall, I would, and again, I guess it's a mute point since it didn't really happen, but I see 3 possible keepers there, but I do know what you mean. And Ronald Acuna, why don't you just wait and to see what you can get more of? But as I kind of said in the last week's show, I mean, it is Acuna. I'm not saying people won't be biting for him or in June or July, but he's as valuable as he's ever going to be right now. Because again, for people that are out of it, and Bryce is obviously kind of indicating that he doesn't think he's going to compete, the longer Bryce waits on Acuna in May, in June, in July, the less he's going to get. I don't really see teams. I think most teams, and I said this last show, I don't think many teams are keeping more than 5 or 6 keepers heading into next year. You need dynamite keepers heading into next year. So if you don't see that as a possibility, you're not giving up dynamite keepers in June or July. You're not. And I just don't think you are.
Like I understand kind of like if you want to like trade like a Jordan Montgomery or you want to trade a Zach Eflin for some guys like to do it for a Nolan Gorman. Like, okay, like you want to, maybe you think that Nolan Gorman's like going to break out this year and you want to get out ahead of the curve. Like, and you want to trade like some of those guys, more established guys for him. Like that I can kind of get behind, where it's just like, well, maybe Nolan Gorman might be a better player than Zach Eflin by mid-year, and then that won't be on the table. If like you really believe in a guy, but like for a guy like Acuna, like I would expect a little bit more of a haul back for that. But as we spoke here, that trade has been undone, and the players have been returned. Not our doing. Those were traded back to one another by both Chad and Bryce. So both accepted the trade going through, accepted it going back. As too much salary to be taken on by Chad. So he decided I'm just gonna kind of undo it, go back to square one and see what else we can finagle. And
He needs that Steve Cohen money, man.
yeah, so we'll kind of go from there. As a reminder, you can only have $320 of active salary, and Chad eclipsed that. He kind of flew over the moon on that. So
I think the key word there is active, because like
yeah.
you did tell Chad in that chat, technically he could have
before the trade was sent back.
Yeah, but he could have benched a Bregman or benched a Giolito, and his lineup would have been actively. So he could have basically said, "Hey, I'll see how Giolito does in his first couple starts." Benched him, and he could have definitely kept that trade. But eventually, yes, if you want your most optimal lineup, he probably would have had to come off one of those guys.
All right, let's get into our bold takes. We can actually go team by team. Looks like both of us have a whole slate of bold takes for each team. We're going to kick us off with Jay's team, and we're going to kind of be seeing eye to eye on this guy that we've waxed poetically, a guy by the name of Corey Seager. We've had a lot to say about him.
Basically, the way I did these bold takes is I went through a team's roster and I said, what guy do I like a lot? What guy do I not like a lot? And I kind of just threw something in there. Hopefully we're a little bit more bold than last year. I said,
I didn't think we were that unbold last year.
Some of them were a little unbold. Some of them,
we were on it.
I know we were on it, but I would when I'm thinking bold, I'm thinking like almost unpredictable.
Yeah, I kind of don't find a whole lot of value in that. Like, I'm not going to predict freaking O'Neal Cruz to have a 50-50 season.
No, but
like that would be like the boldness that some people would classify as bold.
Right.
But
my one for you last year was the Jorge Mateo one that he's going to like steal 30 bases. I'm like, well, yeah, dude, he's got 99 speed in the show. I would hope he steals 30 bases. Buxton, I'll start with that one last. I think Corey Seager is going to win MVP, or I guess in my bold, I don't know, again, bold MVP season, right? I think he's got a chance to do it hitting in that lineup. I know you alluded to it in the last show that the shift has hurt him more than any other player in the league. He's always been an extremely high OBP guy, so I really don't know like what last season was for him.
But I think it was the last 4 years, 272, then 307, 306, and then last year 245.
Yeah.
So which one of those seems like the outlier?
Yeah, exactly. So I think Corey Seager returns back to like a 300 average, 400 OBP guy, 30 plus home runs, 100 plus RBIs. We'll see what kind of crazy numbers come up with some of these guys that are 5-tool guys, which Seager is not. But I'll say Seager MVP. And my other big one, because Buxton is going to DH this year, which is huge news for fantasy owners. He probably still will be Glass, but I'm going to go bold here. I know this is kind of the tables are turning, Kyle, but I will say Buxton will play 100.
You're the Buxton guy?
I know. I was going to say 120, but that doesn't even. That would be bold for Buxton, but I'll even get bolder and say 140.
So 140 games for Byron Buxton. Wow, that is melting my face off. That take is so high. The thing about it is, like, I don't know how long the Buxton DH thing is going to be. I think they have other guys that they want to play at DH, and I think it's more of a temporary thing to kind of ease them into it. But he's like such a good fielder. Like, he's a Gold Glove fielder. I don't think they just keep him in DH. So I think that might be something that's a little bit more temporary. But if they keep him in DH, that's probably the best thing for his fantasy value for this year. But if they keep him in DH all year and he loses outfield eligibility and he's just a Nelson Cruz next year, that would be fucking wild for a former Gold Glove.
Yeah, it would.
We'll kind of see about that. So my bold take for Jay is actually also Corey Seager related. Mine is Corey Seager, 35 home runs, 110 RBIs. Now, you might not think that that's that bold, but those would both be massive career highs. Last year, he had 33 home runs and 83 RBIs. So it would be a 30 RBI jump, or really like a 23 RBI jump, and what his career high in RBIs would be, and it would be 2 more home runs than he had last year. The reason why I don't think that he can realistically win MVP is there's this guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani who also plays in the American League, who is going to be very talented, and then there's this other guy who hit 62 home runs last year that are also going to be vying for MVP spots, and then there's a guy who is maybe the best player of our entire generation, maybe of all time, and Mike Pike Trout, that also plays in the American League. So
I'm before that. I'm all for that.
So there's just too many guys here where I can see him actually realistically winning the AL MVP, and that's before like a guy like Yordan Alvarez too. I mean, there's so many guys that are in that race for AL MVP that I don't think that he has the ceiling to. Even if he does hit 35 and 110, he still might not win MVP at 35 and 110. So that's kind of why I couldn't go all the way to say AL MVP, but it's spicy and I like it.
All right.
So to the Beantown boys, Bryce's team. I actually have 3 bold takes for Bryce's team. So actually, I'll let you go first, and I'll rattle off my 3.
I'm going to say it's not anything too crazy. I think other people could argue this too, but I'll say Bogarts has a career year in San Diego. I think hitting in that lineup, again, I'm not a huge Bogarts in terms of fantasy value fan, but I just got a feeling it's probably going to be in the best lineup he's ever hit in. Even going back in the Boston days, I know you had Devers in there and stuff, Ortiz at one point, but we're talking an absolutely stacked San Diego lineup where he's going to be fitting in real nice at. And I think I know he's had a little bit of the juice ball a few years ago where he hit 30 jacks. I don't know if that's quite possible again, but I think we could see a Xander Bogaerts that leads the league in average, that hits 320, 330. And I think he could have a career year for sure.
I don't see a large difference between the production I expect Xander Bogaerts to see and the production I expect to see from Wander Franco.
Okay.
And
so
I'm not really
both very good players then.
I'm not high on Wander Franco either, but the thing about it, it's the same thing. I just got done talking about Eovaldi going from Hitters Park to Pitchers Park. It's gonna be the same thing for Bogaerts. He's going from the number 2 Hitters Park in Fenway to the Padres ballpark. I would expect a downturn in what was only a power output of 15 home runs, 73 RBI.
He doesn't have to hit over the monster. It's better for him.
Yeah, but the monster's only what, 250 feet away?
No, it is not, dude. What kind of numbers are we coming up with now?
I don't know. The monster is not hard to hit.
I think it's 320. I think it's 315 or 320.
But it's pretty close. And that, yeah, sure, it's tall, but yeah, it's not as hard as it seems to hit it. But yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Xander Bogaerts probably won't even be like a top 15 shortstop this year. Shortstop is so deep that there's just, especially that middle tier that's just growing. You got guys like Adames, you got Volpe, you got Wander Franco, and kind of guys like that. And even maybe like a guy like Ezekiel Tovar might even beat out Bogaerts. Bogaerts is only going to put up 20 homers and 80 RBIs with a 360, 370 on base percentage. I could see guys with not a lot of speed. I could see a guy like Tovar, all he has to do is hit 15 home runs and steal 20 bases to probably be better than Xander Bogaerts is this year.
I'm not saying he's the best shortstop. I'm saying he himself is going to have a career year.
That's a bad take because his career year was 33 homers and 117 RBIs. He's not going to come anywhere near that.
Was that juice ball year? I think so.
It was, but it still counts. It
does still count.
That sure does count. Part of his career.
I know.
All right. Starting with my first bold take. My first bold take is Daniel Bard. Less than 10 saves this year. Daniel Bard will not be making me hard. I'm going to throw all the shade Daniel Bard's way after what the fuck he did to Jose Altuve in the World Baseball Classic. But for real, Daniel Bard is... Oh, he didn't get drafted. Oh, I thought wait, he's not on Bryce's team anymore. Who drafted Bard?
I don't know, man.
Oh no, I gotta go back. I'll have to circle back to
Justin has him.
Justin has. Oh no, Justin's not gonna be happy with me. Oh, thank you, Crimmy. I gotta move to point number 2. I just assumed that Bryce got his.
Crim's our Tony Reale on like when we mess up PTA.
Yeah, points for me. All right, next one. Next one's actually gonna go in the opposite direction. I am predicting 100 RBIs for someone on Bryce's offense. That someone is this guy right here. Ryan McMahon, 100 RBIs for the man, for the second baseman of the Colorado Rockies. I heard a rumor that Ryan McMahon is going to hit 3rd for the Colorado Rockies, maybe hitting after maybe a guy like a high on base percentage guy like Chris Bryant, maybe after another high on base percentage, very quality leadoff hitter, and Jerkson Profar. And if he's hitting 3rd behind those two in Colorado, I believe that Ryan McMahon will drive in 100 RBIs. Not too far-fetched considering he had 86 RBIs 2 years ago when he had 528 at-bats. So as a full-time second baseman, I expect him to keep growing. He's just reaching his age 28 year. You know how I like my age 28 players. I think that Ryan McMahon could hit 20 to 25 home runs. And if he gets to 25 home runs, he will drive in 100 RBIs hitting in that lineup.
I will say you saying Profar is a great leadoff hitter stunned me, but Jurickson
Has
Profar is
nothing to do with his placement on Burns with IPV.
okay. I was gonna say Profar has been awful in his career outside of last year, just awful. But
There's no better remedy than Coors Field, am I right?
that is true. Heck yeah.
Next, I do have something for one of Bryce's closers, Ryan Helsley, $15 A player. I'm going to say that Ryan Helsley will finish the year as the #1 relief pitcher in the entire league. Ryan Helsley's got absolute gas. He's got over probably 99, I think it's 99 mile an hour fastball, decent slider. Last year coming off stats where he went 1.25 ERA and a 0.74 whip. Those are elite ratios. That is probably the best ratios of any reliever last year. Couple that with 94 strikeouts and only 64 innings. If he can retain the role, which is questionable with the Cardinals in St. Louis, they have the Gallegos there as well. But if he can retain that role, I think he's going to get about 35 saves. And if his ratios are anywhere near what he did last year, he doesn't even need a 1.25 and a 0.7 whip like he had last year. I'm thinking a 2.2 ERA, a 0.9 whip, and he'll have way more strikeouts than Class A has, playing on a better team, the Cardinals, than the Guardians. I think that he will step in as being the relief pitcher 1 this year and bump Class A to maybe 2 or 3.
All right.
All right, let's move on to my team. I got to make some bold takes for my team. My first bold take is my guy, Lars Nootbaar. Lars Nootbaar, I love this man. I'm hearing nothing but good things about him. My man, Christopher Welch, has nothing but good things to say about Lars Nootbaar. My prediction is he will get 35 home runs or stolen bases. That might be a 20-15. It might be a 25-10, but he will be over 35 home runs and stolen bases.
That is a lot. That is a lot of stolen bases. And you said 35 and 10, you said?
No. Combined. So either 25 and 10, so 35 combined. So 25 and 10 or 20 and 15 or something like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's not bad. That is definitely bold. Mine is for your team. I think Clay Holmes loses the gig by May. I don't think he's a secure thing at all. The Yankees bullpen issues will continue. They got a really nice guy out there that had some elite numbers last year that I think is waiting in the wings.
Yeah, his name is Clay Holmes.
No, not Clay Holmes. And then I think Marte's under 20 steals again. I know he was under 20 last year in about 120 games. And I know the bases are bigger, so this is probably going against the letter of the law, and I could be completely wrong where he steals 40, but this is bold, right? I will say that 34-year-old Starling Marte does not steal 20 bases this year.
I mean, the smart money is on the under there because the dude hasn't really been able to stay healthy. So, I mean, all it's going to take is one groin injury and he's not stealing.
Right. He had 41 in 2021, so I don't want to think like it completely falls off, but I mean, how many guys at 36, 37 are really stealing bags like that? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. And not a bad take. I just will say that as I've kind of said all offseason, he has said he battled injuries all last year. And, he's recovering from the offseason groin surgery. So, I mean, if the groin is a problem for him all of last year, and now he's finally getting back to health, he says he's 100% right here, feeling 100% in spring. And if he gets back to what he was 2 years ago, it's not like he was, that was that long ago. We're not talking about I'm not talking about Dave's 2018 All-Stars here. 2 years ago, he stole 41 bags. If he can get me 15 home runs and 30 stolen bases, I will be a happy guy at what I got him for this year.
And again, would I be shocked if he had 40? No, because he just, like I said, he did it 2 years ago. But hey, trying to go bold.
All right, next we're gonna go move to Chad's team. I have a little bit of a spicy one here for Chad. Mine revolves around Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm will finish the year behind Nico Horner in the second base rankings in 2023. I look at Jazz Chisholm's stats here. If he stays healthy, it is like probably a 98% that Nico Horner will not finish ahead of him. Health has been the problem. If Jazz Chisholm only plays about 120, 130 games like he's kind of done in his career. Let's say he finishes the year with maybe, 15 homers and 20 steals with a bad on base percentage, 325 on base percentage last year, 303 on base percentage the year before that. So if he's more of like in 130 games, he's going to be a 15 homer, 20 steal guy with only a 320 on base percentage. I don't expect him to drive in a lot of RBIs on the Marlins team. Their offense is putrid, and I don't expect him to score a ton of runs either. He only had 39 runs scored in 213 at bats last year, and then 45 RBI is actually a pretty decent number in 213 at bats. But I don't expect the RBI and run numbers, and I think that if Nico Hoerner is more of like a 2020 guy hitting first or second in the Cubs lineup. Not that the Cubs lineup is great, but I feel like he can score 100 runs with a better on base percent, have a higher on base percentage. I think he'll have comparable steals. I think he'll score more runs, and I think the power output will be a little bit closer than one would expect. Nico Hoerner is going to finish ahead of Jazz in 2023.
I think you can almost argue in those 60 games that Jazz played and the 135 that Nico played last year that Jazz still almost passed him in fantasy value. But I do see what you're saying there with the injuries. It could be interesting. I would love Nico to become a 2020 player, but I also don't see that happening. But hell, I like Nico. I don't want to talk bad about my Cubs. Let's see. My one is obviously I'm a Wander guy. I think he really bounces here this year. 25-25. He's 22 years old. He's 22 years old. He's been in the bigs 2 years already. He's had a little bit of trouble getting staying on the field, obviously, but I think he's going to be the heart of that Tampa lineup. I think 25-25 is very possible. Last year played just about half the games and was on pace for like 12, 13 home runs with about 16 steals. I think he really jumps it up next year again. He's coming up younger than, I mean, Adley Rutschman's 25. Wander Franco is 22. So I really think Wander Franco takes that next step this year. I think he's 25-25 player, all-star.
25 stolen bases is a lot to ask a guy with 10 career stolen bases and 600 at bats. That's asking a lot.
It is.
But if he's battled injuries and he hasn't run because of injuries, and then with the bigger bases, maybe we'll see an uptick from a guy like him. Then I could see it. I would think maybe more like a 25-15 for him more than a 25-25, but he's got to be bold for a reason.
Hey,
heck yeah. An additional one for Chad. And it's going to kind of stem into what you're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But in the last 6 years, the highest stolen base total that we've seen is Trey Turner had 43 stolen bases in 2018. Since then, we have had nobody has gotten more than 43 since Trey Turner in 2018. I predict that 3 people will break that this year. 3 people will have more than 43 stolen bases that year, headlined by the aforementioned Corbin Carroll. Love me some Corbin Carroll. Like I said, 100th percentile in sprint speed. And there we go, Corbin Carroll right here. If he kind of can get on base and if he can stick around, I think he's going to have the green light. The Arizona team is a team that likes to steal. We saw what, who's the Crimmy, who was your second baseman last year or this year too? Josh Rojas. We saw what Josh Rojas did with the green light last year, that doesn't have nearly the speed that Corbin Carroll has. So if he gets the green light and he can get on base and stick around, I could see 50 stolen bases for Corbin Carroll in this new environment, bigger bags. And I think he won't be the only one that approaches 50 this year, but I think he'll lead the way.
I still remember Josh Rojas's, he should not be on any fantasy roster comment. That was a good one.
Who saw him stealing close to 30 bags last year? He was like, his career high before that was like 10.
I did. I'm the one that got him on my team and you were making fun of me.
Yeah, I did make fun of you a little bit, but I can't say that you saw that coming.
I have to look at what he was on projected for the year before, but
yeah. All right, let's look at Crim's Crew. What do you have for bold take for Crim's Crew?
I guess it's not super. I don't know. It's tough. I think so many people are down on. I don't want to say down on Hader because I think they still know he's elite, but he's with Edwin Diaz being out. I will say Hader is the best closer in baseball again. I think he probably leads the league in saves because I think the Padres, I'm gonna argue right now, are going to be the only 100-win team. So I think the Padres, I think 40 saves is definitely in the ballpark there. I think he's pitching again in a pitcher's park, more actually pitcher friendly probably than Miller Park. So I think he is lights out. And if you really look at his numbers last year, he had 4 or 5 of those big blowout saves. I think he only technically blew 4 saves last year. So I think Hader's going to be fine. He's going to be elite again. It happens sometimes. People bounce back. Hader is the best closer in baseball. 60 innings, probably 120 Ks this year.
Interesting. Not really all that interesting at all. Saying Josh Hader is the best closer in baseball is really all that interesting. It's because of Class A. Like, obviously, Class A's got great stuff, but he's like barely at a strikeout an inning. So, I mean, the strikeout advantage that Hader will have over Class A, if their numbers end up being kind of similar, cannot be understated. I mean, switch this back to projections. My bold take for Crimson, I was trying to figure out how I can make this kind of spicy. It has to do with Tyler O'Neill and me being down on Tyler O'Neill. Last year, Tyler O'Neill, he had 14 homers and 334 at-bats, only a 308 on-base percentage, and 14 steals, which is contributing, but major league teams don't necessarily value stolen bases like fantasy owners do. I think that Tyler O'Neill has some competition nipping at the bud coming up from the minors. We got Jordan Walker. We have my guy, Lars Nootbaar. They sent down Juan Yepez, who's just going to be chilling out in AAA, ready for his call back up if O'Neill struggles. And there's now new top prospect, who is a guy by the name of Alec Burleson. He could look to be up by the end of the year. So my bold take for Tyler O'Neill is I don't think he gets sent down mid-year. I don't think that come September, Burleson might get called up, but they're not going to send down O'Neill in September. But I think that Alec Burleson plays well enough in September, and between Lars Nootbaar, Yepez, and Jordan Walker, I think that they leave Tyler O'Neill off the postseason roster. Because I don't, like I said, I don't think they send him down mid-year. I don't think Burleson's ready. I don't think Yepez will play that well enough at this point. And then by September, they'll call up Burleson, and then that spot will be his instead of O'Neill. So that is my bold take. O'Neill will play bad enough to be left off the postseason roster.
All right, that's bold enough to even stand there. I guess not too bold, but you think they make the postseason? How about that?
Who's stopping them from winning the NL Central?
Oh, I think the Brewers win the NL Central.
No.
The Cardinals have had so many pitching injuries already, dude. They're in trouble. Cardinals are in trouble.
They just turn out guys.
They do.
They just bring up 3 more guys from AAA that are just gonna have 3.5 ERAs. Just like
I'll buy on pitching in the regular season though, and I'm taking Burns, Peralta, and
if the Brewers didn't fall asleep at the wheel this offseason, actually did shit, then maybe they would.
Right.
But they're a dysfunctional organization. Yeah. All right, to Dex. I'm gonna take the lead on this one. You guys know that this has to be Zach Gallen related, so I have to go on a complete limb here because now I'm like the anti-Zach Gallen guy. After being the most positive, the most pro Zach Gallen guy for the last 2 years, I drafted him 3 years ago, and then Eddie got him, and then I still touted him as being one of the greatest. Now this whole Zach Gallen ace thing is now being blown out of proportion. So I have to talk about how Zach Gallen is not going to be an ace this year. So what it means to be an ace, I guess, is I guess the bar is so low to be considered an ace. So I have to say, in order for him not to be an ace, he has to be a not top 30 pitcher in the league. So I guess that's my bold take, because Zach Gallen's going to be outside the top 30 by the end of the year, because I guess that's the new bar to be considered an ace.
I was excited for this one because if you're saying that's a bold take, that means you do believe he is an ace right now.
I guess so. I guess that's what I've been told from my confidants, from the people that
what from his numbers last year. Now, what from his numbers last year tell you I'm just genuinely curious. What from his numbers last year say he's not an ace?
I'm just saying the bar is low. He's a very good pitcher. I really like the guy. If I were to let's go to players. We'll go to sort by average draft position for pitchers. And I wonder where he's going to stand, because if he's like number 22, I don't consider that when I say, oh, this guy needs an ace. I don't consider like top 22.
Oh, see, I do. Would you consider Woodruff an ace? Woodruff's an ace, right?
Yes, because Woodruff, I've seen in like the top 5 of people's rankings.
So you only consider like 10 pitchers in baseball an ace.
I would say like top 10.
See,
So I get that's just kind of like the terminology of what we're talking about.
So I guess we have...
ace.
What?
Manoah, is he considered an ace to you?
He's very fringe. They're like in the same class. So let's see here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. He's not even in the top 20 for ADP.
No, he's like, I think he was picked 16
22. So yeah, if you're in the top 22, if that's considered like an ace. And when I consider an ace, it's like the guy that I trust to take the mound in the postseason.
Yes, Alec Manoah.
I feel like if my team's in the postseason, like I feel good, like I'm going to win the game because this guy has the ball. And Zach Gallen, if my best pitcher heading into the postseason is Zach Gallen, I don't think I have an ace on my baseball team.
I completely disagree. Julio Urias, is that an ace?
Getting warmer. I would say yes.
Okay. Valdez, I would consider with what he's done in the last years, I would consider that an ace.
Borderline. We don't. It's just a terminology here.
Max Fried is an ace.
So if you're in the postseason, and what's his name, and Framber Valdez is your pitcher, what are the odds that the pitcher on the other team is better? Because I'd say there's like a 3/4% chance that the pitcher on the other team.
Maybe. I mean, there's only 10 names ahead of him, and some of them are in the other league.
I guess, but
okay. So what name did we just say?
Framber
Valdez, right? How many guys in the AL are ahead of him? I don't think Castillo is better than him, but we can say he is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. Okay. So what are the odds of you're facing one of those other 8 guys? Probably close, yeah. But I mean, that still the teams. I mean, they got rid of Verlander for a reason, dude.
I suppose, but I mean,
we don't want to spend too much time on this. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
All right. What's your bold for Trim? Or no, for Dex?
Mine's bold. I will say that Alec Baum hitting in that lineup, he still got the everyday job, especially with Hoskins going out. I think Alec Baum turns into a good $9 keeper next year. I could see, I mean, this is a guy that came up as a super top prospect. The OBP really hasn't been there yet, but I definitely see a world in that lineup hitting where he jumps his numbers up to 25 home runs, 85, 90 RBIs. He scored 79 runs last year. So, I mean, the runs were already there. So I think Alec Baum next year becomes, again, hitting in that lineup, especially Harper comes back, everyone there. I don't need to say all the names. I think he is an easy $9 keeper next year. It's bold.
It is bold because he's got a lot to prove, because in a full season, he had nearly 600 at bats last year. He only had 13 home runs. He had close to no steals. He had 2 steals, and he had a bad on base percentage, 315 on base percentage. So like, he's not really contributing much of anything to fantasy. No. Not stealing bases, bad on base percentage, and very little home runs for a guy that for a position, third base, that you need power from. So third base is kind of thin. So he's really got to take a leap, but I mean, he's got the potential to, but we'll see if it actually happens. So, I mean, that's bold enough for me. All right, let's move on to Eric's team.
Heck yeah.
I'm pushing all my chips in the table for a guy by the name of Michael Trout. We know the talent of Michael Trout. We know who this guy is. We just know the question is health. I'm banking on him hitting 50 home runs this year. He hit 40 last year and only 438 at bats. If he can get to 550 at bats, boom, 50 home runs. I think he plays just as well as he did last year. I hope that he's going to come out with a vengeance after getting struck out by his teammate, Ohtani. Plus, I think he's got a little something to prove. A wise man once told me, I think that he's going to have to overperform. He's going to have to be on the field to prove to Ohtani, stay in Los Angeles with me. Don't go to the Dodgers. I think that he's going to have to leave it all on the field, and then they got to make the postseason this year. They got to make a big run if they want to keep Ohtani, and I think it's got to be on the back of Michael Trout.
How big of a year? I mean, seriously, how big of a year is it to be an Angel? I mean, honestly, like if they make the playoffs, I think Ohtani could say, yeah, I'll stay. This is great. If they don't make the playoffs, they could lose a $500 million player. I mean, literally, I mean, it's a big year for the Angels. And I think being in a playoff race, I'm not saying Trout ever doesn't give 100%, but I would love to see Trout's numbers when he's like in a playoff race, August, September. Those steals might go. I mean, I know they're
every at bat having the World Baseball Classic feel of it in September, right? Because they're kind of on the fringe of making the postseason. Every at bat matters.
Yeah. And I know they've been telling Trout not to steal, especially when it becomes later in the season and they don't want him to get hurt. I wonder, again, come July, August, September, the guy can steal bags if he wants to still. And I'm not saying I'm seeing 2025, but we'll see. My bold take for myself is Bubba Thompson's steal rate last year was absolutely insane. And I think he played 55 games. I know we talked about it on the show, which is exactly 1/3 of a season. I don't necessarily think he plays every day necessarily this year, which might knock him down a bit. But I think in less than 350 at bats, he will steal over 35 bases, because I think he pinch runs enough, gets in games late enough where I could honestly see 35, 40 steals from him in a very and not a full at bat season.
I don't even know a thing about the guy. Is he like a really good defender? I just assume he's fast. He
is. I mean, 18 steals in 50 games, and then I literally picked him up like a week or two before the season ended last year, and he saved me in the playoffs. I mean, I know I didn't get far, but that dude like stole like 5-6 steals in just a very, very short amount of time.
I say I don't think there's anybody in the outfield for the Rangers that like really is like, oh well, he can't take at bats away from him. Like there's gonna be times where Adolis Garcia even has like 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, and you're just gonna be like, no, Garcia, you're out. Like
Right.
we need defense. We're gonna try and protect this lead or whatever it is, and they sub him in. I could definitely see that him getting pretty consistent appearances as a pinch runner, late in the game, and then kind of a defensive replacement. I don't think
Yeah.
that's too much. All right, next we have Davey. Oh, Davey boy, just a blah team. Not very blah this year. He's sub blah. Maybe we got to think of a new name for Dave's team. Sub blah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that his team, his players aren't very blah, and I'm actually gonna say something about his guy Tatis and O'Neal Cruz, and mine is a little bit spicier than yours, Eric. You kind of went bland with your take. I'm going full-fledged jalapeno spice with this one, and it is 60-60, not for one player, but for two. I think that O'Neal Cruz and Fernando Tatis Jr. will combine for both 60 home runs and 60 stolen bases. I don't know if it's a 30-30. I don't know if it's a 20-40 and a 40-20, but they're going to combine for both 60 home runs and 60 stolen bases between those two players.
I like it. I like it. I got Bednar's traded by mid-May. I probably not too bold. I mean, it's the Pirates. They got to get something out of him. I don't think he stays there in Pittsburgh too long. So I think he's a very early trade candidate, especially for teams that get hungry for a closer fast. And I'll say Cruz, which I guess the point is mute at this point because you think the same. But I'll say Cruz is 30-30 this year. I know it sounds like I've been a hater of Cruz. It's really not that. It's just more so the on base, he got off to such an awful start last year that he did kind of turn it around a little bit. But Cruz 30-30. I just hope the Pirates don't screw the pooch and able to get him back.
Honestly, I had 55-55 was my target, but then I saw that you put Cruz in for 30-30, and I was like, nope, got to raise it to 60-60.
Got to raise
now,
the bar.
So. Got to raise it up. I actually had two more for Dave. My next one is Anthony Rendon. Anthony Rendon will finish ahead of Jordan Walker this year. So I think that Anthony Rendon, I think if he just goes back to like 80% of what he was in 2020, 2019, he goes back to just kind of being like a 28 home run guy in that Angels lineup, maybe 90 RBIs. I think that will be good enough for him to be ahead of Jordan Walker. He's going to have solid on base percentage. I don't know how well of a plate discipline Jordan Walker is going to have, or he's going to have some stolen bases, but I would maybe expect a lower on base percentage, lower RBI, lower home run totals, low run scored totals for Jordan Walker. So I think that if he stays healthy, Rendon will finish ahead.
And you liked that take so much, you put it on the next team too. So
I did. Well, it was kind of, it pertained to both him and
okay.
And Jordan Walker, who we're about to talk to Jordan's team. So I didn't know whose team I wanted to talk about it in. So, I guess I didn't really put one in Jordan. So I should have saved it for Jordan, because I don't really have one for him anymore. But Jordan, that one is for you too. Fuck Jordan Walker. That's what I have to say about them. And then the last one is Cedric Mullins. I am going to go under 120 runs and RBIs combined from one of there you go, Cedric Mullins. So Cedric Mullins, I'm predicting like a 50 RBI season and a 60 run season from him. He had 600 at bats last year, and in those 600 at bats, he had 64 RBIs and 89 runs scored. Towards the end of last year, not only did they start to move him down in the order, but they actually started benching him versus righties. Cedric Mullins might turn into a platoon guy, and they might, if he doesn't hit leadoff anymore, I really am concerned with his runs scored. I think that they could move him down in the order, and I don't think he's that good of a hitter. Maybe he'll be up in the order versus righties and down versus lefties, but we'll kind of see what Cedric Mullins can do. But I just don't think he's that good of a hitter. I think after converting from a switch hitter, I think pitchers are kind of figuring him out, and I don't think he gets 600 at bats again like he did the previous years. And even with those 600 at bats, 64 RBIs last year, 59 RBIs the year before. So I think that kind of takes a downturn. He's going to have under 120 combined runs and RBIs.
All right,
let's go to Jordan. Hey, remember that half-hour pod that we talked about?
Yeah, I thought it was a pipe dream.
All right, Jordan, what's your I already gave mine for Jordan. Mine is Anthony Rendon will outperform Jordan Walker. What's yours for Jordan?
Mine will kind of go the other way, and there's so many great candidates this year, I think, because and I love that they changed the rules to really bring these players up early, the Jordan Walkers, the Volpes, the Corbin Carroll, all these guys. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Walker wins Rookie of the Year over guys like Corbin Carroll and stuff like that. I think Walker's just got immense talent. This guy is a stud. He's going to hit for power. He's going to do a lot of things there. I hate to say it because he's a Cardinal, but I think Jordan Walker will probably, with Goldschmidt, Walker, and Arenado there the next years, that is going to be absolutely scary. It really is. So
Don't forget about my man, that's Newt Bar.
yeah, and there you go, a little Newt Bar there. But I will say Walker wins Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, all right. We will have to disagree. We'll have to revisit this one at a later time. All right, next we have Peter. Peter, I am going to talk down Peter's team here a little bit. Peter had one of the best pitching rotations in the entire league, and I think that his rotation takes a step back this year. I'm going to say my bold take is Peter's rotation will not finish in the top 3 for total points scored from a pitching staff this year. I think that Dylan Cease takes a massive step back. We already know that he's going to have a high whip as he has had before, 1.29, 1.4 whip. And even last year, 1.10 whip wasn't too bad, but I think that he kind of got bailed out. He kind of got some good batted ball luck with it. And I think that whip is going to creep back up to 1.2, 1.25. And that's going to also raise the ERA. Remember, he gave up all those unearned runs. I think those are going to turn into earned runs. And Dylan Cease is going to have closer to a 4 ERA this year, 1.25 whip. Is going to be one of the biggest letdowns this year. We already see that Tristan McKenzie's hurt. Dude weighs 130 pounds soaking wet. I don't think he's going to be able to stay healthy. Liam Hendricks, he needed a closer. He didn't get one. He's got Liam Hendricks and Adam Ottavino. And from what it sounds like David Robertson's going to be the closer or predominant closer with the Mets. So he doesn't have a closer. So he's looking at being last in saves right now. His rotation, I don't know if it stays healthy. I think he's going to have a whip problem. Edward Cabrera projected for a 1.39 whip. Jesus Luzardo projected for a 1.18 whip. David Peterson projected for a 1.33 whip. So I think that his whip is going to be very blah. I think he's going to be last in saves. He's going to lead the league in strikeouts. I believe that. But I don't think it's going to be good enough for him to have a top 3 rotation. There's actually another team that I expect to have a rotation ahead of Peter's team.
Nice. All right. Mine's going to be kind of crazy. I think this might be a little crazy, but this is probably very bold. But this kind of goes into my general take later. I think steals are going to be up so much this year. I really do. I think the bags make a huge difference. It's actually, what is it? 3 feet? Is it 3 feet shorter? I know it's not 90 feet anymore.
It's not 90 feet anymore, but how much bigger are the bags? Because
it might be like 87.5 feet. I don't know, but the stats showed last year in the minor leagues. I think the numbers are going to show this year. I think the pace of play is also going to affect. Yeah, are you looking it up? I think the pace of play is also going to affect steals too. You're not going to have pitchers being able to sit there and like look back at the runner, try a pickoff play. The second a pitcher tries 3 pickoff, reduced by what is that,
4.5 inches.
Oh, inches.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, I don't think the bases are that big.
That big? Okay, no.
The bases would have to be 1.5 feet each wider for it to
Right.
be.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how big these bases were, but no, I think with the pace of play too, again, if a pitcher attempts a few pickoffs on Turner, they know they can't, I mean, they could do it again, but they have to get him on that. So I think steals are going to be up massively this year. I think the big bases is going to encourage people to steal more because I think there's going to be less injuries. You're not going to have to worry about that as much. So I think steals are going to be up along the board this year, which I feel like is a reason you don't have to search for them as much in fantasy. But I think Trey Turner will steal 60 bases this year.
I mean, that's wild. We haven't seen 60 stolen bases. That's what Carl Crawford, I think, maybe, and he's only been like.
It's bold, man. You got to go bold.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be hell of a lot of fun to watch there. All right, so that was all I have for Peter. Next, we're gonna move on to Chris. Like I said, sliding in the DMs, Chris. I have a little something special for Chris today. I am going to apologize, Chris, a little bit. I like this team the more I look at this team. Where I really kind of started to come around as team is I think that every position player offers a little bit something. I think he's still a little bit devoid of power. Maybe he kind of finds that and Kirilloff and Wisdom on the bench. but I actually kind of like this pitching rotation. If this rotation stays healthy, this is actually going to be one of the best rotations in the league. He's got his ace, Garrett Cole. I think Lance Lynn's going to have a massive bounce back this year. Chris Sale and Freddie Peralta are going to be, we know they're going to strike guys out. If they can stay healthy is a completely another thing, but Chris Sale's injuries haven't really been like arm stuff. It's been kind of freak injuries. So we don't really have a reason to think that he can't stay healthy other than just, is he going to be an idiot or not? And with all the ceiling guys of Sale and Lynn and Cole, Heaney kind of is going to be good in the innings you get out of him. And then he's got Tyone here, who's going to be kind of the floor guy, which you actually have a prediction about Jameson Tyone. What would that be?
I think Tyone will actually be the best pitcher on the Cubs this year. His numbers last year pitching in New York were actually pretty solid. I think those numbers are going to come down in Wrigley. I think obviously wind blowing in sometimes, weather related, all that kind of stuff. I think Tyone, and this isn't like, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star or have like a sub-3 ERA, but I don't think any Cubs pitcher has a sub-3 ERA this year that's a starting pitcher. So I think he has a cool 3.3, 3.4 ERA, averages about a strikeout an inning. And I think we're going to see he's going to have the best season out of any Cubs pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it. It's not like there's anybody that's like a egregious, be like, no way, this guy's way better. We don't have that kind of guy in the Cubs. So I could definitely see it. If he throws 170 innings of 3.5 ERA and 1.15 whip kind of ball, yeah, he very well might be the best Cubs pitcher this year. I hope that that's not the bar for being the best Cubs pitcher.
Right.
Long year, but hopefully we have 3 or 4 guys that just kind of hover around 3.5 ERA, and that would kind of make me happy. So what my actual bold take is for Chris's team is I think that this pitching staff is sneaky. If this pitching staff can keep it together, this might be a better pitching staff than Peter's pitching staff. This pitching staff might be a better pitching staff than Tyler's pitching staff. It would not surprise me if it can keep it together, but anybody can get hurt at any given time, and one injury. I don't really love the depth there, but I actually think that Graveman and Munoz, I actually think that both those guys after a month in the season will both be the closers. So I actually think he has a little bit of everything. Lineup needs a little bit of improvement, needs a little bit more pop, but a lot of teams need a lot more pop. But here's my bold take. I had him 11th in my power rankings before. Chris will finish 5th in Roto, not 4th, not 6th. He will finish as the 5th place Roto team. If that happens, then call me Nostradamus, but I'm thinking the 5th place Roto team is going to make the playoffs this year. I don't know how far he'll advance.
Just so we're clear, pre-show,
I don't know if he's going to be one of the top teams, but yeah, go ahead.
Just so we're clear, pre-show, I told Kyle, I said, is it really that bold if we're preseason saying Chris is going to be the 5th team? Why didn't you just have him 5th in your power rankings? So I
have 11th.
I think we can. I don't know if we'd call you Nostradamus at that point. You're making a prediction on his team before
there's a 1 in 14 chance I'm right.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, if you finish, I guess that's true. If he finishes exactly fit, so if he finishes 4th, you're wrong, right?
I'm wrong.
Okay, all right, there we go. I like it.
All right. Now we're going to go to Phil, who's employing the interesting strategy of having 5 starting outfielders. So we're going to see how that works out for him. So Phil's team coming in as one of our top teams, one of our top power ranking teams. I actually have 3 bold predictions for him. My first bold prediction is about Aaron Judge. My bold prediction is that Aaron Judge hits under 62 home runs this year. Now, call me crazy, but I think there's going to be a little bit of regression coming out of there where he's not getting the juice balls anymore.
Is this serious?
No, it is not serious. Yeah,
okay.
Of course, he's going to hit under 62 home runs. No, that was kind of my fake.
Okay.
My fake one for him. My real one for him is actually that. What is his name? Jorge Mateo, not on Phil's team, but Jorge Mateo will have a better season than CJ Abrams. If I look at the skill set of what CJ Abrams has brought in his short time in the majors, 276 on base percentage last year, 285 on base percentage the year before. He has 2 career home runs and 284 at bats, and he has 6 stolen bases in his 159 at bats. A lot of people are projecting a big uptick in speed, but even if he steals 25, 30 bases, Jorge Mateo is going to do that. Jorge Mateo at least had like 10 to 15 home runs last year.
So what's so bold about it?
So because Mateo was free. Nobody wanted Mateo, but Abrams went for $7. Why just get Abrams for $7 and getting a bidding war over him when you could have had Jorge Mateo for free?
True,
And
true.
I actually think that even Mateo, who's going to hit 9th for Baltimore, may still be in a better spot in the lineup than hitting anywhere in the Nationals lineup.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you turn that around and have Adley Rushman hitting behind you, hell yeah, dude.
So yeah, I'm gonna say that even though I think Mateo is gonna be bad this year, I don't think he's gonna be a fantasy contributor. I still think he's gonna be better than CJ Abrams.
Yeah, I like it. All right. My pick is actually weirdly enough, if you go back and look at the numbers, this isn't too crazy, but it might sound incredibly bold coming off last year. I will say Judge is under 40 home runs. Because he's only done it before last year, he's done it one time. Like
Odds of him
literally.
playing another 157 games are pretty slim.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's only done it one other time in his career. Like he had that massive rookie year, and I don't want to say people forgot about him. I think he's been one of the faces ish of baseball, but for a few years there, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, it's Aaron Judge. He's had 2 massive years, and every other year has been decent. So I think under 40 home runs isn't super crazy. But I'll also say this: I know Phil's got some boppers, but I do not think Phil finishes in the top 5 of offense.
Ooh,
So it's bold. So I don't know if I necessarily say I'm believing it
talking about an
myself.
offense that has Austin Riley, Aaron Judge, and wait, where's Shohei Ohtani?
Pitcher.
Oh,
I don't know how long that lasts.
Down a little bit.
I don't know how. You know why I think he's doing it though? It's smart. Because it's the Thursday Sunday week, he wants to start out of Ohtani rather than like 2 games hitting. So I think he's just getting a start out of Ohtani and then probably switching him to hitter.
Possibly, yeah, it could be the case. I don't know if he has the pitching. I mean, he's going to put Malley or Clevenger or Clark Schmidt, keep him in his lineup to, over him being a hitter. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, Shohei Ohtani is a much better pitcher or much better hitter than he is a pitcher. I think that the value that he provides, even in the weeks that he throws 7 innings, 2 runs, and 8 strikeouts, I still think that what you're getting with him from a power speed standpoint as an offensive player still surpasses.
It is. I will say this: if Ohtani was closer, if you could tell me he even 40 more innings, because I think he averages around 150, 160 innings. If he could add 40 more innings to that pitching total, though, I think it would be close. I do. But I think the fact that they kind of run a 6-man rotation. He doesn't quite get 30 starts. He gets more like 26. It's almost pointless to not have him be your hitter. But I will say this, and I know it got brought up. I think even me and you brought it up like a year or 2 ago. I do think in the future, starting next year would make sense to have a hitter and a pitcher Ohtani in the draft. I know people talked about it. I think that would be cool.
It would be interesting. Yahoo does it that way. A lot of sites do it that way. I don't know if we have control over that. That might be a site-wide thing.
Okay.
That by the site that decides how they want to do it. But yeah, definitely it would be kind of interesting there. I actually have one more bonus take for Phil, and it actually has to do with Alexis Diaz, the current projected closer for the Cincinnati Reds. My bold take is that Alexis Diaz will lead the team in saves, while also not even getting to 15 saves. So my bold prediction is that he's going to have somewhere between 10 and 15, but the Reds are going to have so few save opportunities, and they're going to give it to so many different kinds of people, kind of like they did last year, that no one else is going to get above 15. And that if he gets like 14 or 15 saves, he will still lead the team in saves. I also think that they're going to probably manipulate his arbitration. So they might let him close part of the year and then not let him close the other half of the year, and then give other nobodies chances at saves for arbitration reasons. So I feel like that's kind of spicy, saying no other players gonna have more than 15 saves on a given team.
All right.
Next we have Tyler's team. What's your bold take for Tyler?
This is a little bit of a shot in the dark, but I actually really like this guy. And I thought it was one of his better pickups in the draft. I'm gonna say, and again, he's got some boppers on his team, so this is pretty dang bold. I'm gonna say McCarthy on the Diamondbacks. Jake McCarthy will be Tyler's best fantasy player this season.
Best fantasy player. So
Well,
he's gonna have
on offense
finish better, or it's gonna finish ahead of Pete Alonso and Nolan Arenado.
Hey man, look at his stat. Okay, so let's see. He had 320 at bats last year. I'm gonna say if you double everything, which you can't quite, because I know you can't quite do that, but obviously I'm projecting higher.
700 at bats, and he will be a top 30 player.
Well, yes. 640, right? That's not awful. 640. He will have 20 home runs. He will have 90 RBIs. He'll have over 40 steals.
You're rounding up. You already rounded up on the freaking. You can't round up twice. You're double rounding up.
Well, I'm not. What I'm saying is, I think you can double, but I'm also projecting him to be the best fantasy player in a season, right? So it's going to be a little bit more than double. But I think overall he's going to score over 100 runs. He's going to hit over 20 home runs. He's going to steal over 40. I mean, we're talking a 120, 40 player. Does that pass Arenado and Alonso? Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that is
It does.
that is that is your boldest take yet.
And
A
if you
guy
look at the
who's
projections, he
a
could
guy
do
who's
it.
gonna hit eighth probably for the Diamondbacks is gonna have 700 at bats, and in those 700 at bats, he's gonna hit 20 home runs.
Right.
Yeah. So I think if you it's like if 320 at bats, his multiplier would be like 1.5 or 1.7. That puts him at about 14 home runs and about 32 steals, I'd say. But hey, he's young. He can uptick. We saw it with Josh Rojas, stud. Took the upswing last year and got better. So yeah, I mean, shit, anything can happen, right? I think
Yeah.
Adalberto Mondesi has a better chance of being a top fantasy player
Oh,
than
stop it.
him.
Dude hits like a home run a year.
My bold take, similar to Chris, is that Tyler also finishes with more pitching points than Peter does. I look at a very complete pitching staff when I see Tyler's pitching staff. He's got the aces and Framber Valdez and
Dang right.
Julio Urias.
And Fried. And
Max
Fried's an
Fried
ace.
and Logan Gilbert. No, I mean, these are, I would call them fringe aces. Fringe aces and Framber Valdez, Julio Urias, Logan Gilbert, Max Fried. Logan Gilbert may be a small tier below those other three. He's got his closer. I'm really high on Felix Bautista this year, playing for a better Baltimore team. His stuff is really good. Let's see, last year, he had 2.19 ERA, 0.92 whip, and he had 88 strikeouts in 65 innings. I think he's one of the top closers in the game. Hopefully he keeps the role all year for Baltimore. He's got another backup closer in Floro. I don't know how many save opportunities he's going to get in Miami, but he can also go to a guy like Mackenzie Gore, Ranger Suarez when he gets healthy, Domingo Herman. I think he's kind of got options. So I really like the well-roundedness of this pitching staff. I don't really see any holes there. So I think it could be better than a guy like Peters, who's going to kind of struggle with health and struggle with whip.
I mean, I already thought Tyler had the second best rotation in the league, so I would definitely say, yeah.
Interesting. All right, we got one left. The Wahoo Maniacs. That is Justin's team. What's your bold take for Justin?
It's tough because it goes against what I said about the steals earlier, but again, Simmons steals were also kind of an outlier last year, which we talked about on last time's show. And again, he's only getting older. So I'm gonna say I think hitting in Toronto with that short porch until they pushed it out really jumped his power numbers up a little. And again, that was a juiced ball year. I'm gonna say Simeon does not finish 2020.
Yeah. So you're predicting 3019 would not be 2020. So I mean, yeah, I mean, he is now 32 years old. Maybe, I wouldn't expect him to set another career high in steals. I mean, unless you expect him to kind of retain, and maybe the smaller base pass could really go do wonders for him. I could see him kind of going either way. I mean, if Marcus Simeon still 30 bags this year, it would not surprise me.
No.
25 last year, and then you take the bigger bags and the shorter base pass and all the pitcher stuff. Yeah, it definitely would surprise me. But yeah, I mean, you always have the risk of injury. You always have the age of maybe he's going to slow down a little bit, and might not get those 20 steals. I still think he's going to get well over 20 home runs. So I think it's more of like a steals thing. I think he's going to get probably somewhere between 23 and 33 home runs, somewhere in that ballpark, hitting in a pretty good lineup. Still going to be a pretty good fantasy asset. Mine for Justin is not that a guy by the name of Jameson Taillon will be the best Cubs pitcher. He can't be the best Cubs pitcher because Hayden Wesneski is going to be best Cubs pitcher this year. Did I even say that right? Hayden Wesneski. Yeah, I think that's the one, right? He's going to be the Cubs pitcher this year. I don't really have much data other than the fact that this guy fucking shoves when he's on the bump in Wrigley Field at the Federal Landmark. I'm going to be a big Hayden Wesneski fan this year. Go Cubs, go. So that's going to be my bold take. And that wraps up our team by team bold takes. What else do you want to add to that?
I was just gonna say, I mean, I sure hope we can develop a pitcher, because we literally have not developed a pitcher in a very long time. So I'm curious to see if that works.
You could count Jake Arrieta, I guess.
No, you can't. I don't think you can.
But yeah, argument you made. Yeah, Mark Pryor, maybe. Greg Maddux.
Carlos Zambrano, I would say, is the last one.
Biggest of the Z's, Carlos Zambrano. It's been brutal when it comes to pitching.
It's been a long time. It's been a really long time since we've had like a young, controllable, great pitcher. Like we just haven't.
Yeah, so it's not like we're running late on time or anything like that. So we still have plenty of time to do our general. We have a couple just general bold takes for the actual MLB season. Lay them on me, Eric.
9 players had 25 steals last year. And his steals again have kind of been slowing down. If even a couple years ago, I said I don't even think steals are almost fantasy relevant because you really have to. I mean, we look back 2 or 3 years ago, there was 2 or 3 guys stealing 30 bases. That's it. I mean, it really was. 9 players had 25 stolen bases last year. I think it doubles this year. I almost went crazy and said triples, but I'm not going to quite go there. But I will say it doubles this year. I think. I think for fantasy purposes, there is nothing better than the changes baseball's made this year because I do think it's going to make the steal kind of come back somewhat, and I think it'll be its highest numbers in a long time.
So you're saying 18 players will have 25 steals?
Yes.
I could see that. I could even be talked into 25-20. I could see 25 players getting 20.
That's what I'm saying. And that would almost be
triple. Still 25, but I think we'll see a lot of 20 stolen base guys.
Yeah, because I did look it up just to be sure. Only 9 had 25 or high, which really isn't. I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, it isn't. So I almost went triple, which would have been 27, but I'm gonna hold off on double for now.
Yeah. What's your next one?
Pace of play will not be a talking point next season. I really don't think so. I think everyone's going to be fine with it. I know there's some, I even just a couple years ago when I heard about pitch clocks, I kind of did the whole, we don't need that. It's stupid. This is dumb. But I honestly think if we cut down the game, and I have no problem watching a 3-hour baseball game. We're all baseball fans. It's not about watching less baseball. But again, when you even look at games 15 years ago, when I started watching baseball in 2003, 2004, the time of games were 2 hours and 40 minutes. That is what they're trying to get back to. Not 1980s, not 1970s. They're trying to get back to baseball games when we watch baseball as kids, which is a 20-minute shorter game. I don't think it'll be a talking point next year. I don't even think we'll even really be talking about it come July. I really don't.
I disagree. I am just because I want to be different. I think that this postseason, there's going to be a pitch clock violation that results in a run scored that people are going to lose their goddamn minds. They're going to burn cities down because freaking I was gonna say Aroldis Chapman or somebody, but the fucking Royals aren't making the playoffs. But like a Ryan Presley or Raisel Iglesias has a pitch clock violation. Runner scores, the Braves lose, and Atlanta just burns the place down because of the new pitch clock violation. That's my bold take, is that it will matter. Maybe it won't matter for the regular season, but I don't think there's a pitch clock like the whole postseason. Like, I don't think the pitch clock belongs in the postseason. I'm okay sitting and watching a 3.5 hour postseason game because I'm on the edge of my seat for all 3.5 hours of it. Now, maybe 3.5 hours is a stretch, and most of that is freaking commercials. But like, I don't think the game needs to be sped up when you're actually watching a postseason baseball game.
How about this? Just make the last inning of a game, the 9th inning, just turn the clock off.
I'm perfectly good with that, and I'm good with that for the regular season as well.
So am I.
You don't need to speed up part of sports.
Because I will say, like that, I mean, is that Ohtani Trout at bat not perfect? I mean, I mean, really, when you're thinking about it, it's 9th inning, batter steps out, takes a breath, comes back.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that is part of the game
Joe Buck's in your ear telling you how big of a moment it is.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think, do we need that in the 5th, 6th inning of a May game in Wrigley? No, but I do think that baseball should look at 9th inning games. Pitch clock is off, and that might affect me, this and that, or at least, like you said, at least the playoffs. But in terms of pace of play, I don't think it's a problem. I think everything's going to be fine. Everyone's going to love it, and I actually think there will be more eyes on baseball games this year than there have been in the last 5 or 6 years. I think baseball is they have a chance to really capture some fans this year. I don't know what you think about this. There just feels like a different energy, a different something going around this season. Again, COVID the last couple of years. Last year was the first full year in a while. Yeah, there just seems like there's a turning point where baseball can really take the reins and hold it. I'm not saying they're catching football or anything crazy like that, but they're gonna have a lot of eyes on them this year, and I think the pace of play is gonna help.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I hope that baseball is kind of going in the right direction. I think we still got to get rid of some of those bad owners, like, the Oakland A's owner and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like, you wouldn't ask football to be like, hey, you know what, these games are too slow in the final 2 minutes in overtime, so we're gonna go running clock for the 2-minute drill. So no timeouts, no first downs. Like,
see, my thing is, I hate the last minute of an NBA game. I fucking hate it.
Because of the replays, though. Like, I'm okay with the timeouts and stuff, but like,
it's awful. It's so bad. It's bad television, man.
I actually have the worst take how you've ever heard. Then I feel like you should NBA games, you should get the opportunity to match. If a team scores like in 5 seconds, you can match it and you can go back and forth. And the 5, like, the best part of any NBA game is the last 5 seconds, the final shot.
Yeah, sure.
You can create more final shots, more like legacy defining moments. Like,
But see, my thing is for me, and
I love
my thing is always this: you have like all these timeouts during the game, and then all of a sudden in the last 30, 40 seconds, you're just like, oh, let me just use them all. I have, and I know it gets you up
well,
closer in the court.
you lose them all. You only get 2 timeouts
In the last couple, yeah, but it's awful when you have 4 timeouts being called in the last minute of a game. It's like, oh, TV commercial, TV. I want to watch the last 30 damn seconds of the game. Like, fuck this. This is stupid. But
commercials are killing.
that's another sport. But my last bold take is the Dodgers will have the worst record in 10 years, which sounds bad, but that's still 88 wins.
Yeah, that says something about how well run their organization is from top to bottom. Yeah, I could get behind that. There's one more that I have, and it's that no closer will have 35 saves this year. I think it's just going to be a little bit more sporadic. I think there's going to be more committees. I don't know if Emmanuel Clase has the opportunities that he had last year. I think that's kind of what led into my Ryan Helsley thing, is I think that if Ryan Helsley still gets like 33, 34, 35 saves, that he's going to be up near the league lead. So I do think that not a single closer will have 20 or 35 saves. I think that the timing thing might also mess with some of the closers. The closer used to kind of going slow, and I think it's going to screw some of them.
I see a world when we're doing this in 10 years where we are going to have to count 8th and 9th inning almost as a save. I don't know how baseball is going to turn that into I know you can get a 2-inning save, like I get that, but we're going to see more teams. If a Judge, like if an Ohtani, a Trout's coming up in the 8th inning, you're going to see a lot more teams, I think, using closers or their closer in the 8th inning more than ever this year, just because I think it's speaking to why use them, why let Trout and Ohtani face my setup man when I can have him face my closer in the 8th inning. So I agree with you that I don't think we're really going to see any 35 save guys, because I just think teams are using them differently. I've clicked on so many guys' names. They're not always going to be used in the 9th. They're not always going to be. So I just think it's something in the next 10 years for baseball. Like, we're almost going to have to like make a new I don't know how to describe it. I know there's holds. I get that. I've been in fantasy leagues that use holds, but I hate it because you can get a hold in the 5th inning. So it's tough, but I don't disagree with you that the saves will be different. Yeah.
So that could finishes all of our bold takes. Hopefully some of them come true like they did last year. Last thing we have is we do have our predictions for our playoff teams and for our overall league. I will go first, and let's talk about Roto first. My predictions. Oh man, do I have to change? I know I gotta let you go first because the undoing of the trade actually changes it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh man, that does make a difference. Roto, I don't know. I will say, Phil. Oh man, I don't know. It's tough.
I'll stick with it because I think Chad, even though I think he can still flip those pieces into other pieces. So even if he doesn't get Acuna, I still think that he's lined up. I'm going to predict Chad to be the first place Roto team. I think he's finally going to get off the schneid there, and I'm going to predict myself to come in second, and then Crimmy to come in third as my number 1 in my power rankings team coming into the year. I'm going to predict him to come in third in Roto this.
I'll just stick to my top 3 power rankings. I think those teams are the 3 best. So I'll say Peter 1, Kyle 2, Crim 3. Yeah,
I think there's a few chinks in Peter's armor. Not gonna lie, and I think he did not have a good enough draft to sustain it. He had
you only have him 2 in the power rankings. I mean, holy crap!
Yeah, he's gonna get lowered soon. All right, who are your 6 head-to-head playoff selections? Who's gonna be there at the end of the year in September when they were coming down to the wire? Who are your playoff teams?
Well, since divisions really don't matter outside of the division winner, again, I'm just going to basically say my top 6 teams, which is Chad 6, Phil 5, myself 4, Crim 3, Kyle 2, Peter 1. Because I mean, it makes sense. It's not like it's 3 from this division, 3 from that division. So it makes sense to have my top 6 power ranking teams, I guess, be my 6 playoff teams.
I have slightly different. I have a lot of the same overlap as you. I have myself. I have Chad, Crim, Peter, Phil. But I have you missing the playoffs, Mr. Slow Starter over there.
I know, it kills me every time.
I mean, I can't have Chris being the 5th team in Roto and not making the playoffs. So all the way jumping up from 11th in the power rankings. He's going to make the playoffs this year. I don't know if he's going to advance in the playoffs, but he's going to make the playoffs. Oh my God. I totally forgot about my other bold prediction for Chris's team. I can't go any further without this bold prediction. All right. My bold prediction for Chris's team is Oscar Colas is going to land on the IL at some point. I am going to predict injury for one of Chris's players just because he loves he loves to be jinxed. He loves the hex that he says I put on him. So I'm going to place that hex right on Chris's team, and I'm going to say that Oscar Colas is going to land the IL at some point this year because, I mean, White Sox outfielders, right? I mean, they can't. And when it happens, I'm going to have a car driving at 100 miles an hour straight down from Milwaukee to punch me in the face when it happens. So
it's an obscure one. It's a weird one. It's not like you're predicting a Harper injury. You're just predicting some random rookie guy. Hey, he's just gonna get hurt.
I'm just don't trust the White Sox training staff.
We need to get Colas on the show and see what he thinks about this one. Because I don't even know if he speaks English. I have no idea what he even looks like.
I'm also asking for one of my players now to get another hit by pitch and be out for a while. After throwing shade at last time and saying that a number one team, and then Altuve getting hurt that night.
Yeah.
I'm glutton for punishment. Whatever's about to happen to my team. Last league champ. Who's winning the league this year?
It's tough for me because here's what I'll say. Peter, don't sit by idle June or July and just sit there and not make a move if it's staring you right in the face, because that is what happened last year. I believe that's pretty close to what happened the year before too. So it's tough for me because I almost need the word active isn't right, but I need Peter to kind of be almost more aware of where his holes end up becoming in June or July. So I'll say it just because I have him as my number one team. I will say, although I don't know, there's some shady trades that might happen in July or August. So I'll say Kyle wins.
Oh, how dare you? Did you just say shady trades? And is that the reason why I win?
So right around August 1st or 2nd, we're going to see some click through and we're going to be like, what the fuck? I just know it's going to happen.
Wow. Don't you throw shade at the commission like that.
I'm sorry, man. It's going to happen. You're just going to vault Peter's team by acquiring a bunch of crazy guys. And we're all going to roll our eyes.
Speaking of shady trades, I'm going with Phil is going to be my league champion this year. Phil usually very active on the trade market. He's going to address some of the teams, address some of the needs that he has. He's got the solid base. He's got this kind of superstars. I think he's going to get off to a slow start without Carlos Rodon, but if he kind of holds on to him, kind of keeps that upside, I think Rodon is maybe top 7, top 8 pitcher. I mean, when he's on the mound, he's one of the best in the biz. He's put up way better numbers than Garrett Cole did last year. We worry about the innings a lot more than with Carlos Rodon than we do Garrett Cole. He's got kind of the much higher floor Garrett Cole does versus Rodon. So I think that with some of the pieces that he has, if he kind of pulls all the right strings and makes the moves that he usually makes, that he'll kind of be the one. He'll be our another first time champ this year of our head-to-head.
Can I tell you why Rodon had better numbers than Cole last year?
Why?
Because Rodon pitched in San Francisco and Cole pitched in New York Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, well, but I also think that Rodon is more of a ground ball pitcher than a fly ball pitcher, and so I don't think and it's when you're striking out guys, it doesn't really matter. He's not really giving up fly balls left and right. So
if Garrett Cole pitched in San Francisco, he'd have like a 2.5 ERA.
Yeah, but actually, the last 2 years, didn't San Francisco play more to a hitter's ballpark than a pitcher's ballpark?
It might have. Yeah, it's just bigger.
I mean, ever since they blocked like the wind stream coming in from somewhere, there was like an additional wind.
What was that crazy stat? It was you or I think maybe even Chad posted it about the was it the Aaron Judge thing where like so many balls wouldn't have been, was it the juice ball or more balls were juiced in the Yankees games or some dumb shit like that? I don't even remember what it was, but
which was like fucking Rob Manfred, because they were primetime games, and so they were putting the juice balls in the primetime games that were on TV because they wanted to see more dingers. And then meanwhile, you're trying to get everybody to not hit home runs, and then you're encouraging home runs by putting juice balls. Like,
that just screams like something's wrong there if they're doing that. Like, I just don't even know how do you even like, how do they just get away with that? I just don't understand. But either way.
All right, I think it's about time we wrap things up. Do you have any final words?
No, that'd be interesting. We'll have to see what it all turns out to at the end of the year. I'm excited to get going. Opening day tomorrow. Make sure, I'm sure we'll send a message, but make sure you have your lineups ready to go. I think the games start kicking off at noon tomorrow?
Yeah, and the Cubbies play 120.
Yeah, can we get? When do they not place dudes on the IL until a game before the season starts? An hour before the season starts? Like, I am waiting.
It's kind of strange. I don't think that Diaz is going to be ready for the opener. Just a hunch, but I don't think that he's going to make the 26-man roster for
No. I am trying my best to get some guys on the IL so I can fill some slots, but I guess I'll have to wait.
Yeah. All right. For Eric, I'm Kyle. Thank you guys all for joining us, and see you sometime soon.
Sounds good.